Malygos Druid now, and that's one of the, if not the most powerful decks in the format, and it's all Amnesiasc has left to win with.
Yeah, and we're going to get right into it. Pavel has chosen to go with his Cthulhu Warrior to battle and potentially get his first point on the board versus Amnesiasc Druid. And this can be a really sort of wonky matchup to a large extent. A lot of the time, Cthulhu Warrior can actually just beat up its opponents with the, if it plays the minions on curve. We can see now that there's Disciple of Cthulhu, there's Cthulhu's Chosen, straight into Emperor later, and the Ancient Shield Bearer. So a lot of the power Pavel has now, and you don't really need the War Axes too early versus Druid. They don't normally hammer out the threats straight off the bat. So Pavel looking okay, but Amnesiasc, double wild growth. Not terrible either.
Both of these players just have fantastic hands in this situation. This is what I want to see in a potential decider matchup, is both players drawing well and two heavy-hitting decks going up against each other. But this matchup, one of my favorite to watch, one of my favorite to play as well, because both players have to be so adaptable to situations. The Cthulhu Warrior over a regular Control Warrior, because of the additional life gain that it has in the deck, is even less vulnerable to the pure Malygos burst combo that the Druid can sometimes still manage to force through against just a pure Control Warrior, which means most of the time the Druid has to go for board presence, go for minions, try and get as much value as they can, and just keep up pressure with minion presence, try and finish with your Arcane Giants and your Rag after you've overloaded the Warrior's removal. But it does very much come down to reading the situation correctly and adapting your game plan turn by turn. And decisions like, what do I take off Raven Idol, are just a huge part of that.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I'm really interested to see what Amnesiasc does with this Raven Idol going forward, and we're about to find out. Looks like it could well be a spell to help deal with this Cthulhu's Chosen, because he's ahead in mana, but he simply just cannot play Azure Drake into a Cthulhu's Chosen.
Right.
Pavel will be very happy if that happens. Amnesiasc trying to get another option and bite, although would kill it off, except for that pesky Divine Shield. It's so awkward to deal with. No Moonfires available for Amnesiasc to help him out there, and this is kind of a tough pick for him.
It is, and this just kind of explains the situation I was talking about perfectly, where you will hear a lot of high-level players say you are always supposed to take minion in this matchup from Raven Idol. I've heard people that Amnesiasc practices with, part of that practice group that he was talking about in the media piece, I've heard them say very similar things, but Amnesiasc just recognizing, look at the state of the game right now. I have two Arcane Giants in my hand. That makes me want a spell. There's an annoying 4/2 minion on the board that I can't deal with. That makes me want a spell. So he's being adaptable to the state of the matchup, tries to pick up an answer. Bite, less than ideal, but it's at least something.
Yeah. Interesting play from Pavel there. He could have just played a Disciple of Cthulhu to get him up to that magical 10/10 Cthulhu that unlocks cards like Ancient Shield Bearer and Twin Emperors. Chose not to and just armor up instead. I don't know if I would have liked to see that, but just one of them. You have two, and it piles on a little bit of pressure. You're a little bit vulnerable to Swipe, but if Swipe comes down this turn from Amnesiasc, then there's only 3 mana for him to play around with, and then you just build straight into the rest of your curve as well. So
I think what Pavel's doing here is just being stingy with his removal right now, because he doesn't have any in hand. He doesn't have a Shield Slam, he doesn't have an Execute, so he wants to make sure that those Disciple of Cthulhu's can be used as removal tools, such as in this exact situation. Have the spare one to back this up now as well, because if big, intimidating minions hit the board, Emperors, Arcane Giants, all that kind of stuff, he needs to make sure he has game against that.
Yeah, and now Pavel's got choices of his 6 drops next turn as well, whether he values this hand high enough to drop the Emperor and get the reduction now, whether he just wants to drop Sylvanas, and it looks like Sylvanas is the option, with Amnesiasc just slamming that Arcane Giant down. Amnesiasc having the opposite problem from Pavel of just having not enough options here.
And again, just look at the snap decision from Pavel. I don't know whether he spends a lot of time thinking about options during his opponent's turn, possibly, and has already planned a contingency for every scenario that could come down to him, but he had options that turn. Sure, I agree Sylvanas is probably the strongest, but it at least warrants a moment's thought. Pavel just refuses to slow down the pace here. Amnesiasc now has to respect the Sylvanas, generates the extra minion token to try and reduce the chances, and he picks up the best outcome.
What is the follow-up? The hero power into the Disciple would just be a very, very straightforward, easy clear. Could even Feral Rage, but on 22, you're not gaining too much from the health. at all at this point in the game. You might be able to combo it with a Fandral later for a much more impactful turn. So I like this. I don't think there's any point using the Innovate either, as Sylvanas or the Giant are more than likely playable next turn.
Yeah, I think any more commitment to this board and you start getting into dangerous brawl territory, and that's one of the things, when you've decided that you're going for the minion presence, board aggression strategy, that's one of the things you have to be scared of, because your goal is to overload the warrior removal, have 1 or 2 more threats than they have shield slams and executes and slams and bashes. So if you can do that, then part of that comes down to not giving your opponent too much value for a brawl, which is why Amnesiasc chose to hold back in that situation.
Yep, and now the Ancient Shield Bearer, fantastic for Pavel. Gaining the extra health, as you said earlier, trying to push yourself out of any potential Druid burst range, but simply with the lack of card draw that Amnesiac's been able to get hold of this game, Pavel's probably feeling pretty safe at this moment in time.
Yeah, he's running dry. He hit that Drake, that was his 1 card draw effect, didn't pick up a Nourish or anything like that off the Raven Idol, so he is just running a little bit loose right now. He does have a couple of big threats in his hand, but nothing that can really swing the board state enormously. Double Feral Rage would discount his Arcane Giant by 2. That would be a total 11 mana turn, so it is possible if he wants to swing the board in that way, but that basically is his all-in push, so I'm not surprised just to see him hold back.
Yeah, and the frustration as well is if you go for the Giant just as your main push here, with Pavel being on so much armor, then you just open yourself up to just Shield Slam.
Sure.
Done. And then, great, the Warrior didn't even have to work for that. They already had the armor available. They just use a single 1 mana spell, clear up the Giant, and then suddenly it's looking even more grim for Amnesiac. Pavel in a fantastic position at the moment.
He is, yeah. Now he's starting to pick up those crucial spells, the Shield Slam and the Execute that we talked about him lacking earlier on. So now this hand pretty much just has everything.
Pavel can choose to just trade in the Shield Bearer, use the Disciple of Cthulhu, equip the War Axe and clear up and be very clean. Could have gone for the crazy play and just gone face, but that wouldn't have worked out too well with a Sylvanas on the board, and you sort of give Amnesiac the options to make that work out for him, but it's going to be pretty straightforward. Pavel playing it safe.
Yeah, and you can see here the importance of both of those Disciples of Cthulhu being ended up back in the hand, right? He's used each of them to solve a very tricky situation. One to take care of the Drake that was threatening to snowball against him, and one to clean up that Sylvanas board. So his decision just to hold back on that front has been a rewarding one for him. Amnesiac now does pick up some cycle with the Wrath, but he's going to need a serious amount of gas, and that is indeed
Sol?
it.
Yeah. Nourish for cards will be super important for Amnesiac here. Will allow him to potentially get back in this game, as he's not dead yet.
I mean, imagine we're going to see the Nourish use this turn as a bare minimum. Then we're going to see what the rest of the turn is. As you talked about the previous turn, the Arcane Giant is still vulnerable to Shield Slam. But now he has the Bomb Chain available to him here. And now I think we're going to see him Feral Rage the face and then Innovate the Arcane Giant.
I like
this
it.
Plays around Shield Slam. It requires an additional answer from Pavel, but Pavel has additional answers for days right now.
Yeah, but also, as you said, because of the threat of the direct answer to the Giant, and Amnesiac not having a backup plan, now he does. He just drops Rag and, removes the armor unless a minion's played, so he peels most of the armor off with the Rag. And then he has Malygos with at least Living Roots for now and potential draws later in the game. And, Amnesiac, there you go. No thinking. It's going to be a Rag hero power. And there's no questions where this one's going to go, Sol.
There is not only one available target. It's going to cleave off that armor, but Pavel is drawing really nicely himself now in this game, picking up the Shield Bearer and the Shield Slam #2 to be able to answer this Ragnaros. And I talked about the dynamic between the Druid Bomb Chain and the Warrior's removal, and it looks like Amnesiac's hand might just run dry before Pavel runs out of removal here, which will just leave him floundering against this late game power of the Cthulhu Warrior deck.
Yeah, Pavel's draws have definitely lined up extremely well to deal with the threats as and when they come out. Amnesiac still has a couple of chances left. Does run Geddon in his list as well, so there is at least another threat that can put out a high amount of damage if it lives, but Pavel's actually just got removal for days at the moment. The Gore Howl, even just Gore Howl and the Geddon, if your health's relatively safe, that's still fine.
Yeah, chooses not to swing with the War Axe here. Isn't 100% sure he's going to be committing the Gorehound next turn. Might want to use that War Axe as his activator for the execute. Amnesiasc here with little choice but to go for the Malygos. He's seen a lot of removal used already, but unfortunately for the young Savage, the execute is it here, and it looks very much like Pavel is climbing his way back into this series one game at a time.
Yeah, you even see it from the body language from Pavel. When he saw the Malygos go down and just removal, he's all sat back up in his chair and was like, right, okay, pretty confident with this game. Once I get this game, I've got a good chance going forward.
So the Wrath gets cycled here from Amnesiasc, picks up Drake, so this isn't going too badly for him here, but so much of his late game has already gone that he's going to struggle to build enough initiative here that basically not only does he have to race the defensive line of Tank Up, he also has to race the real clock of Cthulhu just being drawn, blowing out his board, perhaps just even straight up lethal. So he doesn't have time to mess around here, and with so many of his high value threats already gone, I think he's just going to fall flat of the mark right here.
Yeah, this is going to be rough. Just Amnesiasc is not going to be able to realistically keep up with this. Cthulhu's Chose are going to continue to pound the pressure. And as he said, there's a 14-14 Cthulhu, and Amnesiasc's on 14 health. So this is looking pretty rough if the Cthulhu comes into hand in the next turn or so. Amnesiasc, second Moonfire with Malygos gone. It's just not really going to be enough. It doesn't allow him to swipe and clear up the board with the 2 Moonfires as well. But that's pretty much everything he has.
I mean, he has to. He's just staring at lethal on board right now, so he has to have a reactive turn here, but all of these spells being used, and importantly, something that we haven't really talked about, Amnesiasc's list does not play Yogg, so that is not a win condition. These Moonfires are not loading up the Yogg-Saron for him, so he is really just on a wing and a prayer right now and trying to find a way out of this matchup alive.
Yeah, didn't even play Emperors. You know, it would be cleared up quite easily by Pavel's Gorehowl. There's just not a lot he can do. Acolyte is only going to be a further pain to seeing a Wrath a little bit earlier used to clear it up. And this is looking very, very rough for Amnesiasc right now. Even just looks like he doesn't even want to play the Maya Keeper, because if he plays it for ramp, then he gains nothing. If he plays it for the minion, then the Acolyte guarantees 2 draws. Justicar is going to hit the board now for Pavel. The tank up begins.
Welcome to the grand tournament indeed, and Amnesiasc gonna throw out the well played. I think he acknowledges that he is not beating Justicar this game. He gives it up. Pavel is on the board. Europe is on the road to recovery, Raven, but Pavel still has a very, very long way to go against, as I said, perhaps just the strongest deck in the game in Malygos Druid.
Yeah, that is only game 1, and we will be coming back